Does yours do that?
I've not noticed that.
I just sent an email, and I just noticed I've seen it many times, maybe every time. Like at the end of it, it has like an option, sort of right-click for Polish.
No other language, just Polish?
Polish, yeah.
I would understand if my phone were doing that to me.
Could it have something to do? The person I just emailed
recognizes that I'm Polish, but I don't know.
The person I just emailed has a Polish name. I wonder if it has something to do with that. Because nothing about the message would suggest that I needed it translated into Polish.
But you've seen this before?
I have.
Okay. So it's probably not just because this person has a Polish name.
No, I've probably written people that don't have Polish names. But I haven't really focused on this before. I'm just bringing it up. See if you have any knowledge.
I have not noticed this.
With us now is Steve Reed, AP reporter in Charlotte. The Bills and the Panthers Sunday at 1. Rare meeting between these two teams. Every 4 years they get around to hanging out together. Steve, thanks for your time today.
Absolutely, guys.
So I guess this is really, to me, it's maybe two questions, but just to get us started here, how good are the Panthers, and is the answer different if Andy Dalton is playing?
I thought you were going to ask me how bad are the Bills going to beat the Panthers, because that might be the more pertinent question.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Dalton is going to start for the Panthers. I'm almost, it's the Panthers are trying to play coy with it, but Bryce Young's not going to play this week. It's supposedly a high ankle sprain, which will keep him out probably a couple weeks. So it'll be Andy Dalton. And, Andy Dalton's looked good in the times that he's come in for Bryce Young in the first game that he has replaced Young over the past couple of years. So you never know. He could come out and have a pretty good game. But this is a Panthers team that's playing better. It's certainly not at the level, where the Bills are. This is a team that's trying to grow, trying to get better. Got a lot of young players. They've won 3 in a row under Bryce Young, which is, the first time ever he's won 3 games in a row. So it gives you a kind of idea of where they're at. But they're playing better and they're running the football very well, very effectively. Rico Dowdle's had a couple big games, and then this past week they got Chuba Hubbard back, and they ended up going with a split carry rotation, and so him and Chuba Hubbard were. It had run decently against the Jets, but if anybody watched that Jets-Panthers game, it might have been, one of the worst football games you've ever seen in your life. But
yeah,
it's a football team it's fine in its way, and it's trying to find a way into the playoffs for the first time since 2017, but we'll see how that goes.
How is the overall recognizing that he's hurt and not going to play this week and maybe for a couple weeks until he heals up, assuming he goes right back in, and that's maybe another layer to this, like if it goes well with Dalton. But how is it going with Bryce Young? It felt like at one point early last year it was over, and then he came back and looked like, wow, look, see, just needed a little more time. Has this year been a little more uneven? And what's the long-range outlook there for Bryce Young in Carolina?
No, this year's been better, and I agree with you. I think there was definitely a point in time through that last season after he got benched and then he came back, and you're still wondering, going, God, did they just make a horrible, horrible mistake? I think the jury is still out, even though this is year 3. I think he's shown really good signs of making good decisions, good throws. He's played well in certain games. And I think, there's a couple wins in this 3-game win streak where he had to make a pass late in the game on 4th down and complete that pass for them to go on to get the winning score, and he did it twice. So that shows something there. It shows that, he's got a little bit of moxie, and certainly a lot of winner in that. He's won at every level except for this level. So, no, they haven't given up on him. To answer your question, they still feel like he is the quarterback of the future. And I think this time that there's not going to be, Andy Dalton replacing him if he continues to play well. I think if we learn one thing from the Panthers putting Chuba Hubbard back in the lineup is that Dave Canales is probably going to go back to his guys, and certainly this case with Bryce Young, because they realize he is for better or for worse right now, the franchise quarterback that they have.
I guess I certainly defer to you on this. Your instincts here. They play the Bills and the Packers the next 2 weeks. So maybe you'd kind of expect them to lose a couple, and that makes it easier to make that move back to Young. But we see every year in the NFL, even like a little bit what Minnesota is right now, where maybe it's not the same. It's not the same. But maybe this veteran, I have a chance to make the playoffs, which we haven't done. The coach is trying to have enough success where he can remain the coach, for years to come. And I wonder if he'd be tempted, because these would be nice wins, obviously, Steve, if they were to get him with Dalton.
Oh, sure. I mean, this would be, kind of the marquee win under Dave Canales, if they can get it. But, there's a lot of things pointing against him here. Bryce Young's out. The Bills, I mean, guys, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Charlotte, but Charlotte's a very transplant city, and there is a ton of Buffalo Bills fans here. And I'm telling you, they're already talking about a Bills takeover, and my wife being one of them.
Okay.
She went to UB up there, and
Nice.
we're both from up there. But anyway, she it's going to be a home game for the Bills, and I would assume, because it happens when the Cowboys come here, it happens when the Steelers come here. So this is very much going to be anticipated a strong Buffalo contingent here. And then secondly, as you guys know, Bills are coming off 2 losses. They can't be in a very good mood. They're coming off a bye week, so they've gotten some rest. They've had a chance to, kind of get some stuff together. There's a lot of things pointing in a bad direction right now for the Carolina Panthers entering this game on Sunday.
Recognizing that there's a different quarterback playing here than who's played all the games prior here this season, Steve. What is Carolina good at on offense?
Well, I mean, they've been good at running the ball, guys. I mean, Rico Dowdle had run for nearly 400 yards over a 2-game span. And he gained 473 yards from scrimmage in those 2 games. This is before last week. And so he can certainly, he has given them a spark. And what is really unusual about this too, is that the Panthers have yet to play, I should say, every starting offensive lineman for the Panthers has missed at least 1 game because of injury. They have been hit hard with injuries. Robert Hunt, who is a $100 million acquisition, free agent acquisition a couple of years ago. He's on injured reserve. He's been done since week 2. Austin Corbett is just now coming back from his injury, and they've been just hit up and down the line with injuries, and yet they've still been able to run the ball, and that's really, you look at it and you go, how are they still able to do that? I think part of it has been the teams that they have played, but one thing you can say also about them is they played well at home. They're 3-0 at home. They seem to bring a little bit more energy defensively when they're playing at home, and they certainly brought the energy last week on the road with the Jets. They had 6 sacks, and J.C. Horn had a couple nice interceptions. So, it's a team listen, they're trending in the right direction. Are they world beaters? No, but they seem to be trending in the right direction right now.
With Steve Reed. So you're from the area too?
Yeah, I originally grew up in Syracuse, and I went to St. John Fisher, so I'm very familiar with y'all's training camp. And I worked down in Hornell at the Evening Tribune and covered the Bills early 90s for a few years while I was up there, yep.
I went to Fisher, 93.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay.
93.
Good. 1990.
All right.
Yep.
How about Tet McMillan so far, Steve? I'm a big fantasy player, and he was an exciting idea. Number 1 target probably right away. Has that been true? The numbers are just pretty good.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's good. He's good, guys. He is going to be a very good wide receiver, and he's shown a lot of flashes. Had a couple touchdowns 2 weeks ago. This past week was was quiet. I think a lot of that was, that they had Sauce Gardner on them, and they were going to make somebody else beat him, because there's nobody else that's shown right now that is a dangerous wide receiver. But Xavier Legette, who was another first-round pick, Tet was T-Mac, as they call him down here, was their first-round pick this year, and then Xavier Legette was their first-round pick the year before. So they've taken 2 wide receivers in the first round of the last 2 drafts. Legette finally stepped up. He had 9 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown. So that was something that the Panthers have desperately needed from him, because he has been really slow to kind of find his footing and to grow. And they need a second receiver to emerge, especially after, trading Adam Thielen in the preseason.
His best game easily, Leggett, last week.
Yeah. Definitely.
Bulldog, would you consider it a Xavier Leggett revenge game, or is it forcing it a little much? The Bills traded that pick.
Might be forcing it a little bit, but yeah, we keep track of these things here, Steve.
The Bills didn't want me; they could have just picked me at 32, right. But no,
they traded back. Yep, yep. No, it's kind of this team. I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of like a slow-moving train, but moving in the right direction. And I think Dan Morgan is doing a pretty good job with making decent roster moves. They've got a couple, pretty decent pass rushers that both, found the quarterback last week. They lost Pat Jones, who was one of their better pass rushers he's done for the season with a lower back injury, and so they had to rely on a couple of rookies last week. And Nick Scorton, one of them, they stepped up and did pretty well. So, there's some hope, there's some promise. I think, everyone down here, guys, is kind of anxious that this is kind of the measure and stick game, right? How far are you? How far are you from where you need to be? Because, the Bills are right now the measuring stick. So it's also kind of a tough team to figure out because, listen, they come here, or the Falcons come here, and the Panthers beat the pants off them. They, 30-0. They just kill them. But then Carolina the next week, you figure they got the momentum. They're playing well. The next week they go up to New England and get the crap kicked out of them by, a kid who's, right in my backyard, Drake May. So he's, he just, the Patriots ran roughshod over him. And, but then they get on a 3-game win streak and, starting to play pretty well. So, it's a hard team to figure out.
Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking, I want to ask you, should they make the playoffs? They're 4-3. The division isn't great, but I don't know. The quarterback is going to miss some time. We'll see how that goes. We already covered that. If Dalton wins a couple games, maybe it'll be tempting to try to push for the playoffs with him. Who knows?
Listen, anytime you're in the NFC South, you have a shot to make the playoffs. Now the Bucs have been kind of the team to beat. Obviously, they're 4-time defending champions, and they're they got Baker Mayfield. But now look at Mike Evans is going to be out for a while, so they're going to lose one of their top weapons, and that's going to hurt. And I think it'll come down to those division games, and I wouldn't rule out the Falcons. I mean, the Saints are the team that you can just say no, but I wouldn't rule out the Falcons from obviously they played pretty well against Buffalo last time out. I think that shocked a lot of people. And that's what I was kind of joking. People down here were like, hey, so Panthers beat the Falcons by 30 and the Falcons beat the Bills by 12? Does that mean the Panthers are 42 points better than the Bills?
Yeah, probably not.
No, probably not. Probably not. So
One thing
it's going to be, guys. I think it's going to be. This is a measure and stick game for Carolina, and it's all things not really pointing in the right direction in terms of Buffalo coming off 2 losses in a bye week.
One oddity about that Falcons-Panthers game, the Panthers have outgained their opponents 5 out of 7, but that isn't one of them. Mm-hmm. That isn't one of them. Atlanta outgained them by more than 100 yards and still got blasted like that. So it's a weird league sometimes. I kind of think Dowdle maybe is inevitable there. I saw what they did last week. You mentioned it, Steve, how they alternated with Dowdle and Hubbard. And, a coach always has a little bit of a challenge when it's an injury thing, when the backup does better. This could be the quarterback too. But Dowdle was, record stuff. Two 200-yard-plus games in a row, yards from scrimmage. Yeah. And Hubbard gets healthy, and they went back and forth, drive after drive last week. So I kind of think when it comes down to it, Dowdle probably wins out. But, Steve, they like Hubbard. They paid him before people were thinking that they needed to do that last year.
Absolutely, yeah. And they gave him a big contract for a running back. It was a big contract. They gave him $33 million over 4 years. So it was a big deal. And, I think that's one of the reasons for that loyalty. But I don't know. Listen, hey, we can all second-guess a coach. I personally, I'd stay with a hot hand, right? You got a guy who's amassed 473 yards in 2 games, and he doesn't start. They start Chuba Hubbard, and they go alternating possessions, and I don't listen. I've covered the NFL since 1990. I've never been in. I've never liked the alternating running back situation. I just don't think it works very often. Sometimes it does, not very often. I think running backs are the type that get better as the game go along, and they get a feel for the game. They get a feel for the creases, what's going on, where things are setting up. And I think Rico Dowdle was certainly like that. He even talked about, in one game where they were playing a few weeks ago, that in the second quarter he came over to the coaching staff. He says, "Hey, let's play this. Let's call this toss pitch right." He says, "I see something. I think there's something there." So they came out first play of the third quarter. They do a little toss to the right, and he takes it 53 yards. And so running backs, the more they play, I think sometimes the better they get. And I think it's tough when you go in one series and then the next series you're out. You go in one, it's like, kind of like a basketball player, going to the bench, coming back on the floor, going to the bench. I think it's, you get into a rhythm. And, I don't know. If I was doing I think I would stick with Dowdle more. But, hey, I don't get paid that money.
Well, while these teams don't play that often, they are linked here. There's like a long-running joke here about, like, anytime the Bills make an add to the roster, do they have ties to the Carolina Panthers? Because of McDermott's time there and Brandon Beane's time there, of course. I don't know, were you covering the team when both of those guys were employed with Carolina? I'm wondering, like, how much of a homecoming is Sunday going to be for these guys?
Well, definitely. I mean, Sean is still very respected down here, within the organization. Brandon Beane certainly, is a guy that, a lot of people like. Now, a lot of people have moved on. Marty Herney was the one that kind of brought Brandon up through the ranks, and of course, Marty's no longer a general manager here. But guys know them. There's the organization. They're very familiar with them. A lot of respect for Sean McDermott here, no doubt about him, what he did and what he's done up in Buffalo. And then you can look at both rosters up and down the road. I mean, you got Shaq Thompson. You got you can go up and down both rosters, right. And it's like down here they call it Carolina North, Carolina South, and I'm sure you guys call Buffalo North, Buffalo South. But it's just there's so much crossover with the two rosters. It's kind of amazing. But certainly. And listen, as I told you guys, there are so many Bills fans down here. I can't even describe how many Bills fans. I mean, there's within 10-mile radius of my house, there's 3 Bills bars. That are
I don't even have that where I live.
No, my son, when he was in high school, worked at a place called Taste of Buffalo, and it's wings and all of the buffalo food, and it's just in a Bills game you can't get in there because there's so many. So there's going to be a huge Bills turnout. I think it's going to be basically a home game, for Buffalo. In many respects.
Well, that's not, and we'll wrap here, Steve. Like, that's not unusual for the Bills, as you would know. I think when they go to Miami, when they went to Atlanta, it was like that for their last game, and Nashville is the famous one. I think Nashville is where everybody we know goes. Like, it's just they cut off tickets to the 716 area code, and it's kind of crazy like that. Not Kansas City, I guess, so much, but Charlotte could be this.
The Bills have a connection with Andy Dalton guys as well, didn't he?
Sure.
A big game, and then a bunch of Bills fans donated to his charity. I think got him in the playoffs.
A last-second fourth down pass against the Ravens for Dalton when he was with the Bengals knocked the Ravens out and put the Bills in.
2017.
Yeah, I remember that.
Ended a long playoff drought for the Bills.
Yep.
And Dan Morgan was here, who's the Carolina GM now.
Right.
So.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So it's amazing the connections between the two teams.
Steve, thanks a lot for the visit today.
Anytime, guys. Anytime you need me.
All right. Appreciate that. Steve Reed from the AP in Charlotte. Allen has never lost 3 straight. The last regular season, like one season, 3-game losing streak by the Bills was when Allen had been lost to injury as a rookie.
Okay.
And it's that Peterman Bears game and the Derek Anderson experience. They lost 3 or maybe even 4 in a row that year before Allen came back.
All right, that's a lock then.
Never lost 3 straight.
That'll never happen.
It's over. Steve, not as high on the Panthers as I was before the